Welcome in. Hey everyone. Welcome, welcome. Oh my God, lots of people joining. Hey guys, so welcome. I want to hear from you in the chat box. Whereabouts is everyone in the world joining us from? So I'm in a meeting room in London today. I'm not in my usual office space with the brick walls. I'm in a meeting room. So tell me, whereabouts in the world are you? San Diego, beautiful. London, we're probably not too far away. Yorkshire, Bianca, girl of my heart, Yorkshire. I'm from Doncaster, so Yorkshire gal. Arkansas, Newcastle. Oh my God, we've got so many. Greece, Philippines, Virginia, Texas. Amazing. Cadcaster in North Yorkshire, Blackpool, some more Northerners. Love to hear it. Cool. Well, welcome in. Levi's going to keep admitting people, and we are going to get started in just a minute's time. So, welcome. Drop in the chat if you're just joining. We're just saying whereabouts in the world is everyone joining from? I'm from a very sunny London. I came down from Ukraine, Scotland, Erskine. Is that how I'm pronouncing it right? London, Las Vegas. Beautiful. I came down to London just a few hours ago and I brought a coat. I don't know why I brought a coat. So I was so warm because it's actually yeah, it's still warm. Anyway, I'm gonna kick us off, guys, because I know we're all super busy managers, everyone here, and so I want to kind of get you the education that you need as quickly and as just as the best quality that I can over the next half an hour. So this session is how to be a respected leader in 2026. Now, if you joined this session, I've run this a couple of times before, some last year and one right at the beginning of this year in January. The reason we're doing this again is because this is a mid-year reset. So the intention today is we're right slap bang in the middle of 2026. The intention is we kind of come back together as a managerial community across the globe. We are very global, if there's one thing that chat box is telling us. We come together as a managerial community to kind of check back in the middle of the year and say, right, let's get our standards back in line. Let's recommit to those things that we wanted to commit to. So if you join this session at the beginning of the year, amazing. We're going to go through some things the same again, but we're going to do it through the lens of it is the middle of the year. So let's readdress and reset. Now, I'm not going to cover anything else than what is on that title right there. So if you're kind of expecting anything else, then you're in the wrong session. But for the rest of you that do want to achieve this, that do want to achieve this respected leader status, just drop the word yes in the chat. Hey, Hannah from Manchester. Hell yes, yes, double exclamation mark. Love to hear it. Beautiful. Okay. So, let's do this. So in order to become a respected leader without working long hours or kissing ass, because we never want to get there, we need something called a leadership level up matrix. Now, by the end of this session, you are going to have a very clear, personalized leadership level up matrix. Every one of you is going to have something that looks a little bit like this. So I want you to draw on a piece of paper, just that 4-cross quadrant, and I want you to write mindset, conflict, prioritization, and accountability. We are going to go through these 4 quadrants. So this is your 4-step matrix. There's only 4 steps to it. I'm going to run through this. It's probably only going to take me, I would say 20 to 25 minutes, okay? Like I said, we're all busy. I want to get you this information as just quickly and highest quality as possible. And so write that down. I'm going to give you one action for each of these and then a spreadsheet at the end that you can take away, you can go download and you can use to track it over the rest of the year. Now, leadership, as we know, is messy. It's scary. It can feel like a minefield. It can feel like there are so many things to do and learn. But these really are like the 4 simplified concepts, I believe, that being an excellent leader and a respected leader falls into. Now, as managers, we have to deal with time pressure. We have to deal with so much. We've got time pressure. So kind of feeling like, we're working on the team, working on the day-to-day, and we're always just buried in meetings. We've got different things happening all the time. Accountability. So trying to get our team to take ownership of their work without us having to jump in and micromanage them. We want them to kind of do their work to the highest of standards. We don't want to have to keep stepping in and micromanaging. Feedback, obviously, we've got to give that feedback, the good stuff, the bad stuff, being honest, being empathetic. And then when they don't take that feedback well, or maybe there's some drama that happens, we have conflict, and that in itself is tough. And all of this we are managing whilst doing our actual job. So usually most of us, we're still kind of in the technical stuff, like the things we did before we had any of this managerial responsibility. And while we're managing all of this, all of these kind of big, scary, messy concepts, we will have that quiet, nagging question in the back of our mind. Am I good enough? Like, am I good enough at this job? And when I got my first management role on the Harrods shop floor, I remember just constantly thinking I was never set up for success. And I know that in hindsight, I was never kind of given any training, any sort of hand holding, which in hindsight, you learn a lot from that. You learn a lot about what not to do. But you do spend your days just thinking, am I dealing with the situation properly? I wish someone could just tell me what to do here instead of having to figure it out all the time. And you're just constantly thinking, am I leading the right way? We put all this pressure on ourselves to have the right answers, to solve every single issue, all whilst being pulled into those meetings, that conflict, etc. And I know, guys, it is exhausting. There is no other word for it. It is exhausting. And when most of us got these roles, very few of us were set up for success in the first place. So very few of us were ever given any training. Very few of us were ever, given like a mentor or a formal coach. And something that used to really bug me was, and this would be when like the imposter syndrome would creep in, is I would kind of look around these rooms, these meeting rooms, in boardrooms with lots of like leaders who generally were a lot older than me, a lot more experienced than I was. I'd look around thinking, they've got something that I don't. I would think it was like charisma or, like they can articulate themselves really well. And I would sit there thinking, oh, I can't do that. So does that mean that I can never be like a great leader, an excellent leader to my team? But over the years, I just started to see and learn that you don't have to be born with it. We're not talking about something here it's not something we're born with, that charisma, that articulation of our ideas, that building respect with our team. It is a skill set. Leadership, excellence in leadership, respect in leadership really is a set of skills. It requires tools, yes, it requires frameworks, and it requires confidence to put those things into place and a bit of a shift in mindset as well. But it is a skill set, one that you can acquire, one that you can practice, you can use, you can learn. And so today, the idea of this session is to get you those tools, get you those skills to build that really solid foundation to become what we know, what you and I know as this like respected, inspiring leader. You can learn it, you've got to do the work, but you can learn it. Okay, so let's get into it. Your 4-step leadership level up matrix. Now, I want to highlight the most important part of today's promise to you, which is this bit here. Now, the reason this is a really important part of this session is because I think we've built a culture around leadership for many, many years that is, the person who gets the promotion, the person who is respected, the person who is seen as the hardest worker is the one who is essentially just working as many hours as possible, kissing ass as much as possible, bending who they are, bending their values, laughing at the jokes, taking the money to become like a different version of themselves. And we kind of, for a long time, it's been in our head that that's what we have to do. And I think we've always had this representation of leadership that is, the typical gray suit, maybe, a lot older than me. And he's sat in this meeting room, this boardroom, and he's working the long hours, he's working late into the night. And I still see a lot of leaders like that now, a lot of managers inside businesses who I actually ended up nearly having an argument with someone, last year, because I was in this workshop with this brilliant team, like all incredibly intelligent people who wanted to do well, wanted to gain the skills. And there was this one guy who was arguing with me about essentially the statement, not having to work long hours. And he was arguing me that, if a client request comes in at 2 a.m., I've got to get up and deal with it. And I'm like, no, do you? Like, do we? Are we saving lives? We're not. And so I ended up in this argument about, we don't have to do that to build respect. We truly don't. And I think I thought this for a long time, and then over the years decided actually that's not what I want. It's not worth it to me. It's not, I would rather never, if that's what it takes, I don't want it. And so I started to like lean really far the other way, in that I started to kind of set boundaries and say no, and like decline that culture of you've got to be always on and the fastest responder and the latest worker. And when I started to decline that, all I noticed was I actually became more respected, not less, because people saw that I valued my own time. And so we do not need to work long hours. We do not need to kiss ass. We just need to master these 4 things. And by way of a very quick introduction, a lot of you will know me just because you will have found this webinar through, whether it's social media, through our online community, newsletter, etc. But hey guys, so my name is Heather Elkington. I started my management career on the Harrods shop floor. Interestingly, I just walked past, so I'm in Marylebone at the minute in London, and I just walked past the park where on one of my first days, I was training for Harrods. We did 2 weeks of training up in Marylebone. And I used to go and have my lunch at a park just down the road, and I just walked past it. And I remember 10 years ago, almost to the day I started that job, and I would go to that park at lunchtime and just cry because I just hated my job so much. I felt so lonely. And I just walked past it like an hour ago on the way to this meeting room. And I was like, "Oh, how times have changed." And I just kind of sat there and thought that was the bench that I used to cry on. But here we are. Anyway, so started my assistant manager job at Harrods, was just had like massive imposter syndrome, would avoid every difficult conversation possible. And then my career really grew. So I went into a PA role for a little while, then eventually into social media. And I joined a tech business called Go Proposal in it was back end of 2017. And that was when I started in social media, eventually moved into a marketing manager role. And then as that business grew and grew, just like all great startups, all of our careers grew with it. And so eventually I moved into the ops director role. And then in 2020, we sold that business into Sage Group. So Sage is a big FTSE 100 here in the UK, and a big corporate, very different to the startup world. And all of a sudden, my job kind of went overnight from being this ops director in a very small contained startup environment to an ops director managing 5 different teams all across the globe. And I back in 2023, we used to do these like 6 monthly surveys. And I got really high scores for management in those 6 monthly surveys. So the learning and development director reached out to me and was like, Heather, we want to we want to sorry, I just lost my train of thought. We want to train our aspiring managers. That's the word I was looking for. Train our aspiring managers in these principles of leadership. So can you run some workshops? So I started running these workshops internally inside Sage, eventually started posting on social media, left that corporate job in 2023, founded Fresh Leadership World, which is my training consultancy business. If any of you have been through Fresh Start, you've done a workshop with me, that's all through Fresh Leadership World. And then just a couple of months ago, founded my second business, which is called Custard, that we're going to talk about at the back end of this webinar, which is a culture intelligence tech platform. Okay. So it's just my honor today, guys, to bring this directly to you. So your 4-step leadership level up matrix, there are only 4 components. Firstly, your mindset. Now, your mind is where everything starts. How we feel going into every single situation, how we respond to every single trigger is all determined by whatever mindset you hold, okay? So in order to become a respected leader and look at a lot of the kind of practical tool stuff, we have to first ensure that our mind is as protected, is as solid, is as strong as possible. If kind of this leadership level up matrix and those tools are like the house that you live in, your mindset is the foundations on which that house is built. And we all know if you have weak, fragile foundations, anything you try and build on top of that, the difficult conversations, the one-on-ones, delegation, accountability, if your mindset is weak, if it's fragile, all of that will crumble. Thinking back to Harrods, like it wasn't because I didn't know how to have a tough conversation. I could go and Google it. It was that I lacked the confidence. And so when I did a lot of digging into mindset and like what was the one mindset shift that really kind of got me thinking in the way I needed to for all the other tools to like become, so I could take them on and become excellent in them. It was this. It was that I held the thought for so long that I had to be perfect. I would sit in meetings, especially like when I got into corporate as well, I still did this. I would sit in meetings and I would look around the room with all these seniors and everyone was kind of so articulate, so confident. And I would think, oh, I can't answer that question because what if I look stupid? Or I don't know what that acronym means. You know, they're throwing all these acronyms around and I better not speak up because I'm not sure what that acronym means. My team member, if I go into a difficult conversation and they get defensive, what if I don't know exactly what to say and I don't get it perfect? So I'll just not have the conversation at all. And it was this concept, I think, that so many of us put on ourselves as managers, which is you have to be perfect. And it took me a long time to see that the best flip you can make in your mindset is to give yourself a permission slip to be wrong, to give yourself a permission slip to make mistakes, and to give yourself that permission slip to say, I am not going to be perfect. I physically cannot be because I am a human being. So I knew I had to focus on this idea of growth and not perfection. So when you seek growth, when you focus on growth, instead of kind of thinking, I have to get it right, I have to get it perfect, you start to go, instead of perfection, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to go and have this conversation, even though they might get defensive, even though I might get, I don't have the perfect evidence and they might stump me. I'm going to go and ask for that pay rise, even though I don't know how it'll go. I don't know if they'll say no. I don't know what, I'm going to go and advocate for myself. I'm going to say no to that meeting that I know is stealing my time. You're not going to get it perfect. Sometimes it's going to go a bit wrong. Sometimes you're going to piss some people off. But when we focus on this concept of growth over perfection, we become so much less scared of failure. And failure that's just the stepping stones. You've just got to keep failing, keep making mistakes, and keep going and growing. And also, it creates psychological safety inside your team. So when you become the kind of manager who is willing to not be perfect, make mistakes, admit when you're wrong, it creates this real basis of psychological safety in your team, which psychological safety is the single most important factor. It's been proven by Google, it's been proven by Gallup. It is the single most important factor as to how engaged and how productive and how kind of challenged and fulfilled your team feel. It's just about you allowing yourself to make mistakes and therefore allowing your team to as well. So for this section, I'm going to leave you with this. We trust people who say, I don't know, far more than we trust people who seem to and who pretend to have all the answers. And so to become a trusted and therefore respected leader, trust and respect go so deeply hand in hand. So to become a trusted, therefore respected leader, we cannot chase the illusion of being perfect. You have to let go of the concept of perfection because it's working against you. Every time you try and avoid mistakes at all costs, it's working against you. We are human, so not knowing the answers isn't silly. Perfection is the only thing that's silly because it's completely unattainable. It's just a fear. So your action here that I want you to write down is, how are you going to seek growth? How are you going to let go of that perfection? It's just a question. It's just a reflection exercise for the mindset one. Ask yourself the question, and you can do this after today's session. Where are you trying to seek perfection? And how are we going to let go of that? Okay, the fun one. Let's move on to conflict. So conflict is, of course, one of the most uncomfortable, however important parts of leadership. It's something none of us want to deal with. We all avoid conflict like the plague. It doesn't matter where you are from in the world, how you were raised, like how direct you are. No one enjoys conflict. We do things like we sugarcoat feedback, we dance around difficult conversations, we say yes to things that we shouldn't. That's avoiding conflict as well. Like when we say yes to things because we're like, I don't want to annoy someone in that moment by saying no. And it's all in this effort to be nice. So we've been taught from a very young age that niceness is the right way to behave. So niceness, obviously it's a good word. Who doesn't want to be nice? It's like, be polite, don't rock the boat, make people feel good, wear the school uniform in the perfect way. And if you don't wear it in the perfect way, you get a slip, a detention slip. And it's all this like conditioning of stay in line, don't rock the boat, make everyone around you feel good. But the problem is, being nice will win you short-term approval, but it will lose you long-term respect. And so when we are constantly working to be nice, it's like this people pleaser tendency. And working to be nice is essentially, it is just people pleasing. It's like avoiding difficult conversations because it's not nice to tell someone something that they don't want to hear. It's things like not sharing your opinion. It's things like saying yes to every meeting, to every social event in the calendar because you don't want to upset someone. All of that is just working to avoid conflict. And back in the day, 500,000 years ago, when we were cavemen and we worked in tribes, people pleasing was a really important part of human nature because if you didn't people please, it was the case of like you were part of the tribe or being eaten by a bear. So it's very instinctual. It's instinctual within us all. The problem is we now live in a modern society, in a capitalist society that just wants our time. It demands our attention, notifications. We all are working so many hours. We're working hard. Then we get home and we've got a whole life to manage. You all know it. All the life admin, the work admin. So people pleasing is no longer about belonging to a tribe or being eaten by a bear. People pleasing now is kind of protecting your sanity, protecting your peace, protecting your family's peace. And the longer that we just kind of stick to being nice and doing nothing but be nice, we will lose that long-term respect because when we don't give people feedback, yes, we are nice in the moment, we win that tick of approval, but we lose that long-term respect because We've missed out on the opportunity to tell someone something that they really needed to hear. The best analogy I have for this is just like telling someone that they've got spinach in their teeth. You know, like when you sat at a dinner table, it's so easy. All of us would very confidently say, of course, I'd tell that person they've got spinach in their teeth. So then why are we kind of walking around work, not telling that person the thing, you know, whether it's you missed that deadline, it's deeply impacted the team, or I delegated this thing and the standard that you've brought it back to is really low. And therefore, I'm now going to avoid delegating things to you because I'm worried that everything's going to come back low. Can we talk about it? Or, you know, you've got this negative attitude and it's impacting the rest of the team. We avoid all that stuff. We love to avoid all that stuff. Yet it's the same as the spinach in the teeth. Okay. So to earn respect, to be a respected leader, we have to make the shift from being nice to being kind. If you have followed me for any amount of time, you will have likely heard me say this before because I will keep just drilling this into everyone I meet and see for the rest of my life. But being kind is just having the courage to give clear, direct feedback, even when it's uncomfortable, because you care about that person's growth. If you want any chance at being a respected, inspiring, trusted leader, you cannot avoid conflict any longer. We can't do it. So my challenge slash action to you for this section is just the next time that you are tempted to stay quiet, and maybe there's a situation right now that you're thinking of that you're like, oh, you know, I want to have this conversation, but it's going to be awkward, or I know they're going to get defensive, or whatever it is, go and have it. Like, go and have that conversation. Being kind is just like building a muscle. It's like the more you do it and the more you kind of commit to going and having these conversations, you build that muscle, you do the reps, you build the muscle. And trust me, like I hated it. I used to hate it. I am more than anyone else. I guarantee I was the kind of like, I don't want to say shy. I was never shy, but I was such a lack of courage and a lack of confidence to have these difficult conversations, avoiding conflict all over the place. The only thing I could do to turn into that kind, respected leader was to just go and do it, to go and practice it. So your action there is go and have that conversation that you've been avoiding, or the next time one of those comes up, go and have it. Okay, is everyone still with me? I'm just gonna ask you, because it's very easy. I know, guys, how easy it is to get distracted on these online sessions, trust me. I go to online webinars all the time, so just drop me a yes in the chat box if you're still there. If you prove to me you're still listening, you're still watching. There we go. Nice. Love it. Yeah, like it is so friggin' hard when you're on these online sessions. I go to them all the time. I love learning. I'm obsessed with learning. I read, I watch YouTube videos every single day. I'm like, my only fear in life is like dying without knowing everything there is to know. And so I'm a big learner. So I spend a lot of time on online sessions of everyone and anyone that I can soak up knowledge from. And I know how easy it is to get distracted. So just stay with me. We're getting close to the end, I promise. I'm trying to keep the energy as high as possible. And this is why we keep them short as well. Okay, cool. Prioritization. So let's learn how to prioritize like the top 1%. Right now, too many of us are stuck prioritizing completely the wrong things in order to move forward. I guarantee if I was to look at your calendar, it would be meetings, it would be tasks, it would be a lot of things that we've said yes to, meetings that we don't need, meetings we're just saying yes to because we're like, we just want to check in or look over. We volunteer for projects that we don't want to be in. We spend time in our inbox, I don't know. And we are kind of psychologically conditioned to in this people-pleasing way because it was once the difference between belonging to a tribe and being eaten by a bear. We are conditioned to say yes to every meeting, respond quickly to every email, because it makes us this like good A-star student. And kind of as a knock-on effect to that, not only are we too nice, we're also prioritizing the wrong things. And in the 21st century, we don't need to do that. Seeking that level of people-pleasing will win you the approval in the short term, but it will kill you that long-term respect. So if we look at the top 1% of leaders, the ones that we actually admire, they are not trying to please everyone. And something that I noticed very early on in my leadership career was you will only respect a leader and respect them and their time if they respect themselves. You will only value them and value their time if they respect themselves. Those top 1% of leaders, the ones that we actually admire, they know that time is their most valuable resource and therefore they are ruthless with it. They decline meetings that add no value. They don't take on tasks just to look busy. And I think we say yes to so much because it makes us feel and look good in the moment, and we kind of get that quick hit win of approval. We take on these projects that are outside our remit, whatever. We jump into meetings that don't need us just to like show face. We answer emails late at night, hoping people will think that we're like dedicated. But none of that stuff builds respect. All of that will diminish respect over time. A few reasons. Firstly, the one that I just said, which is when people see you value and respect your own time and say no and put those boundaries in, they will kind of, that respect will be handed over too. But also because if you're saying yes in the short term to the things that aren't actually moving the needle on your team, your work, your life, so on those kind of like working on projects, you're saying yes to all the quick day-to-day stuff, you'll get a year down the line, 2 years down the line, and you look back at maybe you run like goal setting with the business or OKRs or whatever, those big lofty goals, and it's like, shit, I actually didn't have much time to focus on them because I've been so busy in the day to day. And so my message for you here, I think a lot of people when I go to talk about prioritization, and I actually did a whole podcast episode on this. I think it was last week's episode on how to say no. So I'd highly recommend you go listen to that if you want to learn more on this. My podcast, The Boardroom, you'll find it everywhere. Is the people always think when I talk about prioritization, I'm going to give you some sort of like method or like planner or time blocking or matrix or whatever. The biggest tip, the thing that is holding you back, the single most and biggest, it doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean, with prioritization is your inability to say no. That's all. And so you have to get so good at pushing back, at knowing what truly is adding value and what isn't. And so saying no will just make you so much of a better leader. And it will help our team to do the same. It'll help our team to kind of see that they have to say yes to these big priorities. So I've got a fun action for you here. What day is it? Wednesday. So your action here is, how many meetings can you cancel next week? So if you look at your calendar for next week, take this action away, go and do it after the session. How many meetings can you either cancel or reduce, so take it from an hour to 30 minutes or even to 20 minutes, or delegate? Could you delegate it to one of your team? Maybe it's like a good opportunity for one of your team to go and see that thing, do that thing, whatever. Now go do that every week. I used to do this when I was at Sage. I'd actually do it on a Sunday afternoon, because if I got those Sunday kind of anxiety scaries, I would just go on my laptop and kind of, the way that I'd make myself feel calm is just to spend 10 minutes looking at my calendar and thinking, okay, I'm just gonna, nothing's gonna hurt me this week. Nothing can hurt me. And I would, as a result, kind of go through meetings and try and get out of as many as possible. And then finally, accountability. So accountability, I think, is one of the most misunderstood and difficult concepts to understand in leadership. But put really simply, so accountability is essentially being an accountable person. So you doing what you say you're going to do, you taking ownership and accountability over your own shit, over your own crap. But secondly, it's also the double edge of that is holding your team accountable. So holding them accountable to hitting KPIs, meaning that your team can kind of be successful on paper and report upwards successfully. So we're going to talk about it from those two stances. The very first thing we have to cover is accountability in you. Your team do as you do, they do not do as you say. And so if you think that accountability is just like micromanaging and checking in on your team, that's just a level of control. The first place we have to go to, if we want to expect our team to become these like accountable, engaged, excited to hit KPIs, driving towards the stuff in the business, we have to become it ourselves first. It's the only way to do it. And so here's the simplest 5-minute way, 3-minute way, I'm going to cover this really fast, to create accountability in your team. Now, the best way I've ever seen this explained is using a concept called above the line thinking. So every single day, us and our team members have a choice. We either operate above the line, which is ownership, acceptance, and responsibility, owning what we can control, finding solutions, and being accountable, or we go below the line, blame, excuses, and denial. So accountability begins in a leader. Where do you fall? And it may be that throughout the day, you go a bit above, you fall a bit below. It may be throughout the week, above, below. It may be in your personal life versus work. Maybe you're above in one, below in another. Are we just running around blaming every other force, the economy, the weather, clients, a different department, for all of our problems? Are we blaming something that isn't controllable within us? Or are we going to go, okay, those things might be crap and we can try and change them and we can try and do something about it. But at the same time, I have to take a level of ownership over my own actions and my own career and how I'm moving forward. When we do this, when we become this accountable person, it almost starts to become impossible for our team not to do the same. And so we have to do this first. You have to kind of do this exercise first in yourself. So for me, accountability me, and if you need a second to kind of screenshot that or write it down, whatever you want to do, you can just Google it. It's a kind of really well-known leadership concept, above the line thinking. I would show your team that as well. Show them this graphic and ask them to tell you, where do they think they fall? One of our core values at Fresh Leadership World and Custard is stay above the line. And so if ever we kind of drop below it, if ever, a client complains and we're like, yeah, but they didn't understand, blah, blah, I'm like, whoa, let's take ownership. We've done something wrong here. So finally, let's talk about accountability and you. So always do what we say we're going to do. We have to, in order for our team to do this, we have to do what we say we're going to do. So don't overcommit. That goes back to the other two things around saying no, pushing back, setting boundaries. We have to show people trust our word. We have to, in order to be respected, our word has to be sacred. Okay. And it's only sacred if we do the things we say we're going to do. I'm getting it to you by Friday. You get it to them by Friday. It might not be your fault, but it is your problem. I'm afraid, guys, when we move into a position of leadership, we lose the luxury of blame. And so there's so many things that happen that's crap that we don't want, that isn't our fault. My train was late. That's not my fault, but it is my problem, okay? Because I've still got to get to this meeting room. I've still got to deliver this webinar. I've still got to get to a dinner reservation at 6:30. The train was late. It's my problem. I could go around blaming the train companies, blaming the weather, whatever. Or I could go, you know what? I should have got the train 30 minutes earlier. Next time I'm going to get the one before, just so I've got a bit more leeway. And then seek feedback and action it. I always think the best way to be someone who shows I'm accountable, I'm committing to ownership, I'm committing to growth, is go and ask for feedback. Go and ask your team, what's one thing you love about the way I manage you? What's one thing you wish I could change about the way I manage you? When you do all these things, guys, it sends this message. I take a high level of ownership over my own crap, and I expect that of other people too. So let's talk about our team. Obviously, we have to hold our team accountable. We want them to feel that too. We have to set clear expectations. I think assumptions can ruin so much in communication, especially now a lot of us, we're working remote, we're working hybrid. There are a lot of assumptions that fly around in the workplace. What I mean by that is, you might delegate something to your team member. They think it should be done one way. If you have an idea that it should be done another way, make sure it's so clear, like set really clear expectations. Follow up regularly. So this is where we stop micromanagement. So we want to make sure that we're not checking in, like jumping in and checking up on people. Have a really good meeting rhythm within your team. So ours, we have a session every Monday morning where we go through a scorecard. We look at where we've done well, where we've gone wrong, and what we're going to do to change that. Outside of that, I'm not checking in on the team saying, how's this KPI going? How's this project going? Because I have a really well-designed meeting rhythm with them that allows me to kind of check in at those regular intervals. And then reward ownership and not perfection. So again, going back to that point of growth over perfection, if someone goes hell for leather on a project, puts all their effort and energy into it, shows that high level of accountability and engagement, tries 5 new ideas, but it just misses the mark, to me, that is what I want, because the next time they do it, or the next time they do it, maybe we will hit the mark. And it's like, I think we've got into this habit of the only thing that's worth rewarding is hitting KPIs. And I am someone who is so keen on rewarding effort, like what's going into that. Yeah, of course we want the KPIs to be like the dashboard to understand where we need to navigate, where we need to go to, but make sure you're still rewarding and praising the effort that's going into that as well. Okay, I told you it was fast, but I hope you've all got a lovely notebook now with that quadrant filled in with actions and notes. So if you can start to master these components in 2026, like I said, we did this in January. It's easy to you'll be full of this invigoration, excitement to go and do these things now, to go and put these things into action. You want to hold yourself accountable to this as the months and years go on. So, but what's next? Now we're going to do a Q&A. Before we do that, I just want to spend 5 minutes. So think of your questions. I'm going to ask you to put your hand up. You can either come off mute and we can have a discussion. This is the first time we're running Zoom as a meeting, which is very exciting. Which means that you guys can actually speak to me, which will be really nice. Or you can put the meeting in the chat. You can put the question, sorry, in the chat box. I don't mind, whichever one you want to do. So start to think of your questions. But before we get to that, I want to show you something really important that the team and I have been building for the last 6 months that is finally available for you to take this to the next level. So the reason we've done this as a mid-year reset is because everything culture related is so kind of up in the air. It can feel very fluffy. You know, we have like budgets and KPIs for everything, marketing, sales, dev. But where is that? Where is that budget? Where is that KPI? Where is that investment in culture, in leadership? And we know from survey and like reviewing businesses time and time again that the best investment you can make inside a team and a business is into leadership and culture. 70% of variance of engagement in a team, this is a Gallup stat, you can go Google it, comes from the manager, comes from the quality of the feedback from the manager. And so one of the So anyway, how do we even begin to measure culture and improve on it to be an excellent manager was the question that I was trying to solve, which is why we built Custard. And if you haven't seen Custard before, first of all, then I've failed at my job because we've been trying to show you this for so long. But I'm going to give you super quick product demo, less than a few minutes, and then we can get into the Q&A. Now, every week or every fortnight, you can choose, your team will get sent a pulse survey. It goes at Friday morning, 8 a.m., and they've just got a few short questions to answer. They get asked survey questions that then come up into these scores for you as the manager. So Custard is built for managers. We built this for you as an individual manager, or if you manage managers, you can have this at an organization level to understand and get that pulse survey on how your team is feeling. But the most important steps, you'll get the scores, you'll get a team health score, you'll get so much information. The next most important step is the action plan. So we don't just give you the scores. We've actually then built the system with all of my frameworks inside there so that as soon as you know which culture scores, so we just go back to this, which ones you're excelling in. We've got psychological safety, autonomy, recognition, clarity. Once you know which ones you're excelling in and which ones you need a bit of work on, Custard will give you actions. We've got videos, frameworks. We've got AI discussion that you can go and have. We've got an AI leadership coach built into there that you can go and discuss your very specific scenarios with. It will give you actions that you can go and work on every single week to improve your culture. And then over time, it's going to show you these reports of the actions that you've been doing and how those actions are improving your culture. So the entire intention here is to build excellence inside leadership. Now, on top of all that, we also have something called the playbook inside Custard, which is it is just like the entirety of the management playbook needed. It's got content from my book. It's got every video for every single aspect of leadership that you would possibly need, all built inside Custard, so that not only is it this kind of culture intelligence platform, it's also an incredible training platform. We have everything that I've just talked you through, the mindset, the feedback, accountability, prioritization. Custard is built to make all of that feel effortless and systematic, so it actually continues to happen. So after you've come off this session, you're energized, you're invigorated. This is what's going to implement that every single time. So it gives every single manager the ability to hear from teams and do something about it. So kind of make positive impact on the culture. We've got a very special offer for you guys that Levi is going to drop in the chat right now. So all you need to do today is join the waitlist. Basically, there you go. Thanks, Levi. So there's a link to join the waitlist there at the bottom. All you need to do today is join the waitlist. We've already got almost 100 teams now inside Custard because we opened for the first cohort last month, but then we also had some more beta users in. And we've got people in there just creating these incredible results. We are only opening 50 teams at a time, 50 managers at a time, because we want to make sure that as we scale the product, we do it sustainably. What I mean by that is we can support everyone in there. I can get proper onboarding demos to everyone in there, and that we scale the product in a way that's really sustainable and ensures that you get the best service. So we're opening up to 50 more teams at 2 p.m. UK time on 28th of July, so next Tuesday. if you join the waitlist via this link, you're going to get a link 1 hour early. So you're going to get access 1 hour early. If you're already on the waitlist, all you need to do is just resubmit your name through that link, and it's going to tag you up in our system to get you the email 1 hour early. So last time we sold out all the spaces really quick. It was in like, we actually sold out in an hour and then we left it running accidentally. And so we closed it off after 75 minutes because all the spaces went so fast. We thought it was going to take us a few days to get 50 teams on. It's a 14-day free trial. So worst case scenario, you sign up, start a 14-day free trial. There's no contract. You can cancel it anytime. You get your team in, you test it, you get your results, and then you can cancel if you want after 2 weeks and never come back. As part of this bonus and offer, we're going to get you that 6-week respected leadership tracker as well. So it's just a really fun bonus. So you've got all the information in the chat box, and Levi, we're also going to send it over on email. So I cannot wait to see some of you guys inside Custard. I can't believe we're already coming up to our second full cohort. If you've got any questions on Custard as well, you can drop them in the chat or you can email me. So I'm going to jump into Q&A now. I think we've had one Custard question. Are there employee team minimums? No. So originally when we built the product, it was a minimum of 3 team members because 3 makes people anonymous. But what we've done is built a sub-3 team mode. It's called sub-3 team mode, whereby if you've got less than 3 people in your team, so say you're a manager of a team of 1 or 2, you can still use it. There's just kind of like disclaimers for both the team and for you to say, just so you know that your name isn't against these scores, but because there aren't 3 people in the team, there's a potential it won't be anonymous. So it still works the same. You get access to absolutely everything. It just, that we just give those disclaimers so that people know that it's not anonymous. Okay, right. Where do we start with questions? Okay, I'm going to scroll up because I saw a really great question about neurodivergence. There we go. I'll start from there. Beverly, hey Beverly, let me stop sharing my screen so that, sorry guys. I'm going to pin myself. I can't see you. I thought I could see people on these meetings, but never mind. Oh God, I can see myself really big. Right, I'm going to put the chat box in front of the camera so I don't have to stare at myself. Here we go. Okay. Hey, Beverly. Heather, how do you adapt your frameworks and management style to ensure you have a neuro-inclusive workplace and team? Great question, and one that people quite often ask. I actually think, Beverly, so when I first developed these, I wasn't even thinking about neuro-inclusivity at all when I first developed them many years ago. But over the years, we've kind of tried and tested these with neurodivergent team members. And the feedback that we've had is, because all of these frameworks, one of the underpinning reliances of them is that like directness in communication. So we're not beating around the bush. We're not asking people to read between the lines. We're being direct. Also, with a lot of my frameworks, I will like ask people at the beginning if they're happy for me to communicate these things to them now. A lot of my frameworks actually go very hand in hand. I would say all of them with an environment that has neurodivergent people in them. Because one of the main things that I think, there's so many different types of neurodivergence. And so I don't want to like box everything in. But one of the most important things for me is that clarity in communication. And I think leadership, like for so long, we sort of beat around the bush. We don't give the direct feedback. We don't just tell people what we mean and our expectations. And it's that creates like friction. But with all of my frameworks and with all of them, every single one of them, the thread that runs through them is clarity and kindness. And I think that sets all of them in a really good stead. Now, if you wanted to kind of go even deeper and I guess like look at different neurodivergent traits for like different neurodivergences, big word, different neuron, I'm not going to say it again, for the different types of inclusivity that you need, you probably would have to go a layer deeper in looking at that. But I would say generally when we've checked it against lots of different neurodivergent team members, it's that thread of clarity that kind of wins out every time. Cool. Okay. Any questions, guys? Throw them in the chat. I'm going to start working down. So I'm starting at Beverly and I'm going to come down. Question from Ivona. Hey, I'm mentoring people within the team, but not officially their line manager. Any advice on how to support and influence them? So I would say when trying to support and influence anyone, so, outside of an organization, whether you're in a matrix organization, whether it's upwards, sidewards, the one principle I always go back to is think about what are their goals. So, like, what are the goals of the person that you're speaking to? Is it that they want career success? Is it that they want to hit their KPIs? Is it that they want to look good in front of their boss? And when you know that, like when you really understand what's important to those people, you can communicate and influence them far better. So an example that I'd give you there is like, so often we go to our boss and we'll say something like, say if we've got too much on our plate and we want to remove something, a lot of us would go to our boss and say, I'm just so overwhelmed and like there's too much going on and I need to get rid of something off my plate, which is fine. And it's a completely fair way to communicate. And if you've got a good boss, they should take that and go, okay, let's sort this out together. The issue is not a lot of them are good and not a lot of them take that well. The better way to communicate that in a way that's really influential is I need to prioritize these things for the purpose of the business or whatever their goals are. I can't do that right now because I've got these other 4 things going on that have kind of been brought in and expected of me. I am going to remove these 2. I'm going to put them to the side so that I can focus on this priority. And it's kind of the same way of saying I'm moving stuff off my plate because I'm overwhelmed, but we just reframe it through the lens of their goals. Like, what is it that they want to succeed? And that for me, if you're in a matrix organization, managing up, whatever it is, that is the best way to communicate. Shannon, hey Shannon, how do you navigate being the youngest and least experienced in the team and moving into a management role? I mean, it's hard. I was there. I'm no longer there. I would say 2 things. Being young and having the least experience is actually a positive. So try and reframe it that way. And what I mean by that is, in places of work, we need diversity of opinion in every way, shape, and form. We need younger people, we need older people, we need people in the middle. We need experienced people, we need people who don't have experience, we need people in the middle. Like, we want all of it. We want the most diversity of thought and opinion as physically possible. And so just try to kind of reframe that young, least experience as actually that's a really important piece of the puzzle. The second one I would say is you're going to come up against a lot of emotional complexity. So what I mean by that is, if I think back to Harrods, it's like you will tend to think that what you need is like the framework for a difficult conversation, the framework for a one-on-one, the framework of how to delegate, and all that stuff's great and you do need it. But there's like we said in the mindset bit, there's this like thing that's going to stick first, which is actually the reason I can't have that difficult conversation isn't because I've not got a framework. It's because I'm lacking the confidence and courage to go and have it, knowing that I won't do it perfect, knowing that I might try and like make a million disclaimers for myself. I might over-explain myself, and all I'm doing is seeking approval from the person who's sat in front of me because they're older than me or they're more experienced than me. And I think acknowledging that the first year or 2 is going to be far more about who you are in here than anything that you can kind of get off the internet in terms of frameworks and methods, etc. You're going to have to do the work in here. So you're going to have to really go easy on yourself. You don't need to be perfect. None of us need to be perfect, but still commit to having those difficult conversations. I guess I will give you a permission slip to say you still need to hold the standards, even though you're young and less experienced. You still need to have the difficult conversations. Just because you're those 2 things doesn't mean you shouldn't continue kind of holding those standards. So that's all I'd say. And as time goes on, you'll learn to love it. Is the session being recorded? Yeah, it's going to be recorded and sent out to everyone. How would you recommend prioritizing/managing time when requests are consistently made from seniors? So I have the way that I manage my time, and obviously I don't have seniors now because I run my own business, but I did have seniors and I still manage my time in the same way, was I use the Eisenhower matrix essentially, but in a more simple way. So the Eisenhower matrix, for anyone who's not familiar, is putting things into buckets of urgent and important. I'd show you my to-do list, but it's an absolute mess right now, so I don't want to out myself like that. So using the Eisenhower matrix, have 2 columns. So I use Notion for my to-do list. I've got 2 columns, urgent and important. Urgent is all the things that need doing in the next like week, which is, they tend to be the tasks that come in. Important is the more working on the business stuff, on the team. Tends to be like the bigger projects. And what it helps you to do is see that if you're spending all your time over here in the urgent, it's going to be fine. No one's going to notice for a week. You're going to get things done. You're going to win the approval. But in 6 months' time, when you've got team who are disengaged because you've not been focusing on their one-on-ones, you've got team members leaving because you've not been focusing on whatever, you've got team members who are lacking accountability because you've not given them the difficult feedback, all of that will start to show after a few months. And so try and separate your time really evenly between urgent and important. I just saw a massive A380 fly over, which is really cool. If anyone knows what that is, it's like the massive planes. Nicholas laughing. It was really close, just went past the window. I wish I could show you. So that's what I do, urgent and important. And some weeks require more urgent than important, and some weeks you have to just carve out and force that time to work on important. So that's how I physically manage it, and lots of saying no. How do you navigate managing a team where they're all older than you? So I think we kind of done that question, Becky, but I'll do a short bit for you here. They're all significantly older. I would just say be aware of the emotional complexity that's showing up and how it's overriding your decision making. So what I mean by that is like, there will be this thing in the back of your brain that's almost like looking for approval from people. And maybe there's one person more than others that you're looking for approval from. You need to know that that's there. You need to accept that's there. And you need to start overriding it. So every time you feel, because the management isn't any different, you still have the conversations, we still manage the conflict, still do the accountability. The actual management of that team shouldn't be any different to a team who's the same age as you. It's just that you have to override that like need for approval. You could do something like a team reset. So if you feel as though you've been managing in a way that you don't really love for a while, you can just do like a reset with them where you sit them all down and say, look, I want to make some changes in how I show up, how I deliver feedback, how I hold you guys accountable, how I delegate tasks. These are my plans. Let's chat about it. Like, I think the more transparent we can be, the better with our team, because it's everyone's first time living. So that, like, there's no rules to this thing. And you can literally have a reset meeting with your team and be like, this is what I'm planning to do. What do you think? And then they'll be backing you. They'll feel a bit more ownership over it because they've helped you to decide how to do it. And maybe there's one person who is a bit sticky for you, and you know that they're not going to take it as well, but they're the people you just need to watch out for. I do have questions. Hey, Amber, I have questions about the conflict part of this framework. I've got teams in different countries in the Netherlands. As a direct approach seems to work perfectly fine. However, in other countries, it's not perceived as kind at all. Do you have experience with the framework in different cultures? So interestingly, I actually have a lot of experience with this, and I see that someone's recommended a book that the culture gap is great. But I have a lot of experience with this in the sense that I used to manage teams across cultures, and I found actually the US to be one of the most vastly different to how we operate in the UK in terms of that directness. And it was shocking to me at first, but then now I think it's amazing. And I'm like, we need to do this more. And then you've got like certain countries in Asia, for example, who will be a lot more kind of held back and may not see it as kind. But so I got that first set of experience with that at Sage. But then now I also work with Sony Music. So I've been working with them for 18 months now in a range of things like training, core values, consultancy. And I'm currently working with their Asia region. So all the different territories across Asia. And even within Asia, they have very different cultures. When you look at places like the Philippines versus China or Korea, it's vastly different. But the one thing, because I've done lots of like research interviews with people there, I've even been out to see them earlier this year. And the difference is, the conclusion that I've come to is, although there is obviously a lot of difference in communication styles, I actually think we all do command the same thing, which is we do want to hear the feedback. We do all command the respect from our manager to know the truth and to be transparent. It's maybe just that if you were in a culture that was less it was less common and they were less likely to do that. I wouldn't like go in bulldozing with it. I would go in a little bit softer and kind of ask them if it's okay for them to receive feedback, get them a bit more used to it first, explain to them why that feedback's so important, but I would never hold myself back from delivering it. Is what I've learned. The cultures who are some of the most timid actually want to continue to grow and learn and kind of bring these things into their workplaces too. Alice, hey Alice, thanks for a great webinar. Do you have any tips on how to effectively implement conflict and be kind for people that are not your direct reports? So I think we covered this one, Alice, when we were talking about very quickly, it's just make sure that you tap into their goals. So make sure that you think about what it is that they want as opposed to just your goals. Amelia, hey Amelia, how can I spot my direct reports goals while also trying to achieve company KPIs as a new manager, trying to learn and adapt to my own role? Okay, so what I'm reading from that, Amelia, is they've got like personal development goals. So your team have got kind of like maybe it's salary, maybe it's promotion, maybe it's just skill goals, but you have to achieve these KPIs, and that's really important too. Those two things for me should go hand in hand. So I think the fact that there's like a mismatch between their development goals and what the business is trying to achieve, that's potentially where the problem is. I always think when we're talking about goals, we have to get really good as managers at expectation setting and like being willing. I wrote something on this recently and I can't remember if I did a full blog post. No, it was part of, oh my God, where did I write this? About managing expectations. Maybe I've got it in a draft somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to do it if not. I've written it somewhere. I wish I could point you to it. But basically, I'm just going to put you on mute. Thank you. We have to manage expectations as a leader. So, and the word that comes up for me there is transparency. So you have to be as transparent as possible with your team. So if they bring goals to you that just aren't achievable, or like I had a team member once come to me asking for a pay rise, someone that I used to work with, and he was on a PIP and he was performing really badly. And I'm like, mate, what? How have you even come to me with this? And a lot of managers in that situation might kind of soften what they're going to say. Whereas I just see it as like, be as transparent as possible. If those goals aren't achievable, make sure that we are telling them that they're not achievable. Bianca, hey Bianca. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna, before I jump into some more questions, obviously we are at time. We're at the hour. And so I just want to thank you. What I'm gonna do is I'll do one more question. And please email me your question. So after a webinar, what I always say is just copy and paste your question. If I don't get to it, I'm going to do Bianca's question, then I'm going to have to jump off. Just email it to me so you can respond to any email communication that you get from me. If you hit reply, it comes straight to my inbox. So there's no replies here. They all come directly into my inbox. So send me your question. It might take me a week or two to get back to them because I tend to just do a little bit here and there every day, but I will get back to you. It will not get lost. I promise I'll get back to you. So send me that question over if I don't get to yours. And other than that, just a massive thank you. And I appreciate that, like I said, time is our most valuable resource. And so when you kind of give up your time to be on these sessions, I do not take it lightly. I make sure, that I just give it my all, energy, education, everything. So a massive, massive thank you. Love all the love arts coming through. Thanks, guys. We've never had this before, so... Kate said, how much is Custard after the free trial? It's £35 per manager. So if you're just an individual manager, it's £35. But like I said, go try the free trial. Make sure you get on that wait list. It's in your inbox if you're not in there already. Because this is, with Custard, it's the cheapest it's ever going to be because we're only going to keep adding more in and making it better. And if you want to get in now, it's definitely the best time to get in to be part of our kind of founding members world. So, hey, Bianca. So if you're jumping off, thank you guys. See you later. Bianca, I'll do your question and then I'll jump off too. So, hey, Bianca, I've been with my team for 5 months and the culture isn't great. I've tried to be as direct as I can and as a result have had 2 grievances raised against me. Both investigations have been unfounded, but still my confidence is totally knocked. And as a result, I avoid almost any tough situations. That's a really tough one. And I'm sorry that you're in that situation. I think this sounds as though it's one of those situations where it needs like it isn't a sort of zoom in deal with the individual scenario, it's a zoom out. What are we doing that's kind of like a bigger change? And what I would say here is you need to speak to someone else in the organization who's not in your team, whether it's your senior, whether it's HR, and just explain to them like, look, these are the ways I want to manage my team. Direct feedback, not avoiding conflict, XYZ. I can't do that anymore in the current circumstances because I've had these two grievances raised against me. What are we doing moving forward? Like, should I just keep moving forward with this? Because the last thing I want is another grievance. Or do you believe, as HR or as your senior, that I need to pull back? Because it's at the point where it's like, give me some honest, true feedback. Tell me what I need to know. And if the case is that actually, no, the team need to change, like Bianca, you're doing great, then what I would say is we look inside that team and go, who's not right for this team? Who are we putting on a pip? Who's been the toxic negative energy person that's making everyone else feel as though they can't say what they need to say or can't get involved in initiatives? What resets need to be done? Do we need to reset some meeting structures? Do we need to just like reset a bit of accountability? So yeah, I'd say this is more of like a big zoom out question. And I would also say sometimes I would say get Custard. I think Custard will help you. I know I'm very biased, but it will because it means you can get that direct feedback with actions about the culture as opposed to just individuals. But what I would also say is if it gets to the point where like culture's hard, it is a hard thing to change. It's a really hard thing to turn around. It doesn't happen overnight. I think like individuals and performance can be simpler, and sometimes you can kind of give people a pip and shock them and help them. But culture in this whole team is hard. And so take time with it, like build out a 6 month project plan of, what it is you want to achieve with the team and the culture. Take it to your senior, get them to back you. Take it to HR, get them to back you. Because this isn't going to be an overnight change. But you can do it. You've got this. And I would imagine if your confidence is knocked, if there's like one person in that team who is really knocking it one person above the rest, I would say that something needs to happen with that person, whether it's a pip or they need to be let go or something, because it's not fair on you or the rest of the team. Cool. Okay. Sorry, we ended on a slightly more somber note there. But yeah, thanks, guys. For those not in the UK, £35 per month is 15.8 kilos. Amazing. I'll use that in the gym. But yeah, 15. I don't actually, in different currencies, obviously you can see it on the website, but it also works itself out in Stripe. So the product is very global. It's not just our customer base is incredibly global. We've got a lot of people in the US, in Australia, in Japan, in Dubai. We've got customers all over the world. So thank you so much for being here. We'll see you at the next one. We run these every 6 weeks. If you've got any topic suggestions, please email me. We normally do topics that are slightly more like drilled down in this. So the last one was we did a deep dive on one-on-ones and the mistakes and the benefits, etc., which the recording's on my YouTube if you want to go watch it. Before that, we did accountability. We drilled into accountability. So any topic suggestions for the one that's in 6 weeks' time, let me know. And I'll see some of you then. Thank you so much for being here. See you later, guys. Bye bye bye.